Hello humans! Whoever thought we're gonna talk about Yalom's view on existential psychotherapy and Freud's obsession with the old in and out game, I'm sorry. But we're looking today at analyzers and how they make your life better, how you can learn from them and train your ears, and the biggest mistakes you make with them. Let's jump right in. Actually, my little mic broke, so here's my little bush. What kind of analyzers are there? We're gonna cover the most common 3 types of analyzers. So the first thing we're gonna cover is the spectrum. Let's have a quick listen to our new song Get Connected that just appeared on our Bandcamp and see it in action.
Let's get connected.
So you have a frequency and volume here. Frequency, of course, the lowest frequencies are here, the highest frequencies are here, and then you have the dynamic of the frequency. So how does this analyzer work? Well, like all analyzers, it needs a certain amount of time to capture the audio and look at the audio and analyze it and then print it on your screen. All right. Therefore, in every analyzer, not only in this spectrum, but maybe we can also take the one from Melda that's free. You have a sort of speed control. And here you see it in milliseconds. Not everyone has this. Here in the Bitwig one, it's just slow, medium, very fast stuff. And of course, the faster we make this analyzer, the less information you really get out of it, right? I mean, can't really tell where is the snare here? I don't know. I can't tell. So if we make it too slow, it's the same thing. It kind of blurs the image because there's so much time going in that it sort of averages out. Well, this is good to see your overall shaping of your mix because you kind of get an idea that it's somewhat linear in what it's doing. And like the energy in every area is sort of the same. And so that's how you can use the time control to your advantage. Okay, I want to see more of how the drums hit. Are we in drums already? And then if we listen to it. Here, for example, you see the bottom of the kick always going doom, doom, doom. That's one of the settings you have to look for. Then you have the kind of detail, how detailed the frequencies are displayed. You see, I can turn the smoothness up here. This again is up to taste, and it's important to know what you want to see. If you want to know if the overall energy distribution of your mix is kind of in the ballpark that you want it to be, then sure, crank that knob, crank that smoothness. Resolution is also often called resolution. I can put it on huge here. Okay, we see more spikes. Now, the more spikes you see, of course, you're like, oh, there are spikes. Maybe I should EQ those. So be aware of that. Don't do that. If you put it on small and you kind of miss the frequency, maybe that you actually want to address, it comes very much down to taking your time and finding the right settings that work for you. And you need a little bit of a feel for the overall response that you get. So it's a learning curve attached to it. But now to the number one mistake. let's look at this here. This is in DC offset. And a DC offset, what does it mean? Is it bass? Well, if you turn up your volume now, even if I... Wait a second. Let's do this gradually so we don't get something broken here. So if I turn this up now, it's very loud. It's equally as loud as the songs that just played before. And yet you don't hear anything because it's a static offset of the fundamental point your wave will use to oscillate around. Okay? We can get rid of this with an EQ, and then it's gone. Many people say, okay, you always have to EQ low cut everything because damn, those DC offset, you don't want those. And that's typically right. But especially when it comes to drums, there's a huge mistake. Because sometimes in the spectrum also something can appear as a DC offset, kind of, even if it isn't. And what I mean by that is the click, the transient of a drum. I have a kick here. Better. So you see, we see something down here at this level. And if I take a low cut, it's still there. Ha! Didn't I just cut it out? Why? And it just has to do with the nature of the analyzer taking a certain snap of the time. And for the analyzer, the sudden change of volume from 0 dB to maximum level, I don't know, minus 5 dB or what this kick is, kind of gives it the impression of there is bass in there where there isn't. At least not at this area, because if we go into a synthesizer, because of course that's a kick I just synthesized to show you. The synthesizer puts out the frequency I play, and if I play a deep E and the envelope is taking this sine wave from, I don't know, 4K down to the E, there can't be anything lower than the E, right?
Right.
I mean, that's why we synthesized it, right?
Right.
To make sure everything is just as we put in. So that's something you have to look out for. But there's something else happening when you low cut, even though you didn't need to. Look at this kick drum. This is, by the way, an oscilloscope. This is our second analyzer we will look at. But we're not done with the spectrum. I just wanted to show you this really quick. Now, the oscilloscope has the waveform running through, and you can see the frequencies as good as with the spectrum, but you see the volume much better, the dynamic of the sound, how the dynamic changes. And with the spectrum, you kind of never see it in one place, the dynamic of a sound. You always see the changing dynamic, but of course the oscilloscope I can freeze, and I see, okay, yeah, it's going down here and then going up. Now you wonder, what is the blue line doing here? I can turn this out for now. That's something else I will get back to later. But yeah, so you notice this kick drum is very, I don't know, it has a transient, a lot of boomy things here happening, a lot of bass. Yeah. Oh wait, unfreeze. Freeze! Let me just delete that low cut that was still on the kick drum. What? Okay, here you see we have a perfect kick in the means of we have controlled the overall level and the frequency perfectly by synthesizing the kick drum. The transient is as loud as we want, and the body is as loud as we want. It has it has no dynamic, to be honest, and maybe that's not what we want in the song. But it's very controlled, and I like to control things. So maybe sometimes don't low cut everything just because you see this in the spectrum. Also use your brain. What is our low cut doing? Is it changing the phases? Now if we make linear phase here, even on linear phase mode, it's not as beautiful as this, right? I mean, look at it. It's so German, so clean, so blocky. I like blocks. It's like a little Lego. Don't step on it. One thing we haven't discussed about the spectrum is the volume here and the overall weighting, and that's super important when it comes to spectrums. First of all, the volume here. As you can see, when we go to our settings that we have here on the left, we have a range of 100 dB. Now if we open the analyzer by Melda, why is it looking so weird? I find it very hard to find cool settings with this analyzer. That's sometimes it's not even doing anything. I don't get it. It's because it's averaging everything. Okay, wait. That's weird. So some analyzers, I don't trust them. You see? It's just weird what it's doing. And I feel like I don't get any visual information out of this analyzer. But however, when you start this analyzer, its range is from 0 to -60 dB, which means that everything you look at will appear much more dynamic than in the other spectrum. So I might see more peaks, which lets me analyze it better, but on the other hand, I maybe think, a peak? Get rid of it! And put some EQ on it or soothe and just bring those peaks out. But that's not what you should do. I'm just saying that I've seen your demos, I've heard your demos, that's what you do, guys. By the way, if you want to show us your music, come hang on Twitch every Wednesday, 8 p.m. CET. We are there and giving feedback. Enough for the plug. So, okay, we covered the range. We didn't cover the weighting. The weighting is also super important. Okay, let's play a song here. And you see, it's kind of like the whole energy here, except for some of the peaks from the bass drum and the melody is kind of equal, right? And that has to do with the weighting, with the tilt of 3 dB per octave. 3 dB per octave is the ratio that you get from pink noise. Wait. Noise. Pink noise. So it's just noise, right? But you see, pink noise now appears linear. So if I get this to 60 dB per octave, it seems crazy, like way brighter. Like, oh, do I need to cut some highs here? And if I go to 0 dB per octave, it looks like, oh, I think I'm doing okay. Like, maybe there's a lot of bass in there. Maybe I should get rid of that bass, right? Now, a lot of analyzers that you have maybe in your EQ or in your DAW, like Ableton, they don't have the tilt on 3 dB per octave, which is something that sounds very nice to the human ear because the energy is distributed equally over the whole spectrum. Instead, they have this 0 dB thingy. And now, if everything is tilted all the time, for me, it's very hard to tell because there's also no tilted lines in the background, right? So how can you know if something's too loud or too quiet in your mix? Like, how do you know the energy distribution of your song if everything is tilted? It was like if you were looking at a picture and wearing glasses that you don't need, one of those silly ones. That's the first thing you want to get right. Put your spectrum on 3 dB per octave. And then you have a good frame of reference because your highs shouldn't be louder than a straight line, but they can be darker. If you say, I want to make warm music, okay, make them darker. Maybe even go a little bit in this direction, 4.5 dB per octave. If you say, I want to make warm music, let's put it there and leave it there. That's fine. 3 dB per octave, if you say, okay, I'm an EDM guy, I want those crisp highs, there you go. That's your setting. But 0 dB per octave, pretty shitty, I must say. And you have the same settings in your Pro Q. Here, settings, range, resolution, speed, and tilt. You see, my tilt in the Pro Q is also 3 dB per octave. My range is a little bit smaller, which is not a problem because you also have this yellow range, right? If I turn down this here, it's minus 12. Okay, that's my change. I know how much change I'm doing to the audio. And the spectrum I see in the background, of course, the change there is a lot smaller because it fits the gray range here, which is 90 dB, obviously. But okay, you have to get used to it and, you know, check out different ranges, see what feels best for you. But know what they are doing and use them in a way that helps you and doesn't make you make mistakes. Okay, spectrum. Did we cover everything to the spectrum? I feel like I'm talking forever. Does this have to be a serious?
Connected.